beautiful Sunday, July 17th. And we got a great guest today. But before I get into that, I want to let you know for our audience or guests here that don't know who Comics Cast is or Let It Out is specifically, Comics Cast is all about the indie creator. It's all about getting eyes on them. So if you're a penciler, an inker, storyteller, publisher, if you're in the indie comics industry, we want to get you on the show. And Comics Cast Let It Out is kind of a draw and talk interview type thing. And we like to talk about our guest creative journey. And we also do I guess, like I said, a draw and talk. So conversation with some live drawing. So you get to see the artist style. So for today, we have a special guest, a Mr. Len Danovich. For those of you who don't know him, he's a artist extraordinaire. He is really, really talented when it comes to the horror genre. I had a treat looking at his. It was a treat looking at his art, and you're gonna love it. Traditional media artist that he is. He does do some digital, but I think that you're gonna be seeing some really spectacular inking process techniques that he's known for. So with that being said, let's get the show on the road. This is Comics Cast. Let it out. Hey, Mr. Len Danovich, coming at you from, is it New Jersey, New York? I can't remember. Where are you from? Oh, your audio, Len, it's dropped out. I can't hear you. Can you hear me? Nothing. Okay, bear with us. We're gonna try and get Len's audio back up. Let me see. Here, let me add. Maybe your audio is coming from your art cam. Let me add your art cam. All right, say something.
There you go.
Okay. Your mic is coming from your. Okay, your mic is coming from your art cam, so we're just gonna have to.
That's right.
We'll have to leave your art cam on, so no problem. All right, we were able to solve that little problem, so we're rolling with it. Sometimes we get these little technical gremlins that pop up every now and then. So that being said, I want to welcome you. Say hello to everybody, Len. Now that we can hear you.
Hi, everybody.
Okay.
So to answer the question, I'm from Northwest New Jersey.
New Jersey. Okay, New Jersey in the house. That's awesome. So let me. We got some people in the chat area already. Let me see. Okay. Oh, we got some stuff from Steph just saying hello. Yep. Here we go. Here we go.
Wilson?
Yes, super artist Len. There you go. And I guess we're gonna hopefully get to see a lot of our audience as well as some other artists, because everybody knows who Steph Wilson is. He's definitely been a guest on several campaigns, and Len, you're no stranger to the indie cover artist scene yourself. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop your social media handles into the comment field, and let me pop that up real quick. So here we go. First, let's get this out of the way. You can follow Len on Instagram at Len Danovich, and on Facebook at Len Danovich as well. We want you to bookmark that. Just make sure that you go there after the show, because we want you to be here on the show to see the magic happen, and we get to learn a little bit more about Len's creative process. So here we go. And I'll bring the chat down. Okay, yes. So it looks like Steph is going to be here to heckle you the whole time, but he'll be heckling you in the best possible way.
I accept his challenge.
You accept his challenge. Okay, so you are New Jersey represent. I didn't even get a chance to go through some of the things that you talked to me. You have a background in illustration, graphic design. Awesome, because I'm a graphic designer too, and fine art. You attended the School of Visual Arts in New York City. You worked for, has worked for different visual media companies. Now we can talk about that. And of course, you do freelance design work. So let's move this part of the show to what we call the origin story. This is where I hand the mic over to you, and you basically talk about your creative journey, all against the backdrop of some of that phenomenal art that I alluded to at the beginning of the show, which I think our audience is going to be just in for a treat. So that being said, the mic is in your hands, and just give me well, actually, go ahead and start talking. I'm going to have your art pulled up here in a moment.
Well, where would you like me to start? Would you like me to start when I when I was 4. Now, when I was
Yes, yeah, go ahead. If you want to go that far back, do it. Do it. Yeah.
So let's start. So I came here. I'm an immigrant from Russia, the former USSR, with family members in Ukraine, and my heritage is all through there. I came in the late 70s, early 80s, so I am a child of the 80s. Um,
Oh.
like a lot of, you know, people from late 70s, 80s were my, formative years of developing and taking in all the pop culture, at its peak of creativity.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so, and as long as I remember, I always drew. I always drew for boredom or entertaining myself, or just it's something that's innate. It's just something that I do. Whenever I'm sitting around, my hand fidgets, and all of a sudden I just have to doodle something or draw something. It's one of those. So I'm always drawing. I take breaks. Sometimes you burn out. You take a little break for maybe
Uh-huh.
a day or maybe a week, maybe a month, or you got to recharge your batteries,
Uh-huh.
and come at it. But in generally, I'm always drawing something, and you know, um, as I went to high school and junior high school, all throughout school, I was always the artist kid. I was always the creative guy. Always, hey, what's Len drawing today? Or the girls would be like, oh, can you help me with art class or something like that. So I was kind of like the popular nerdy kid. At the same time, I wasn't very
Wow.
nerdy. I was kind of popular with everybody. So I
Popular
didn't
as an
belong to any
artist.
cliques. Yeah, I didn't belong to any cliques or anything. I was
Uh-huh.
like, that's Len, man. He's
Uh-huh.
cool. The jocks, the nerds, the cheerleaders, the goofballs.
Uh-huh.
Everybody would accept me. So that was kind of a fun upbringing. So I always drew. I always had something going on. As I got a little older and my parents kind of started to focus more on that, they were like, well, let's take some art classes. So I took classes in airbrush, and that led into oil painting and, still life and more
Yes.
fine art and portraiture.
Yes.
And
Mm-hmm.
from there, one of my airbrush artists was good friends with Dave DeVries, who was another artist from Jersey. He's kind of a pretty amazing visual artist. And I met him and I kind of got hooked by how he presented his artwork. It was kind of a mixture of comic book art and fine art and,
Mm-hmm.
the techniques that I was learning and trying to figure out at the time. And that turned me on to a whole new group of artists. But before then I was always into, anything creative. So going back to the 80s, you have all the, toy art, because I'm a big fan of toys, of a
Mm-hmm.
certain ilk. Um,
Uh-huh.
and the packaging design, and that led into the design aspect of it, the logo design, the presentation, just the costume design, all that stuff. It really
Uh-huh.
fascinated me. Um, when I was a little kid, and my parents worked in the city, they worked in New York, and they bring your kid to work day. They both worked together in a company, and they were engineers, and right by Madison Square Garden. And one day, I must have been, say 11 or 12, but it was a different time. Kids would, here's some money, go get lunch, go outside in the city, walk around.
You can't do that in New York
There's
City now. So,
so there were vendors. So there were vendors
yes.
on the street corners selling all kinds of tchotchkes. The city was rustling and bustling, and there I am, 11 years old, going to grab
Uh-huh.
a burger or something for lunch, and I see these guys. They're selling comic books out of the
Yeah.
bins on the street
Uh-huh.
corner, and I'm like, "What's this?" So I started digging through it, and I've run into comics before. At the Walmarts or Bradley's or these like five and dime type places,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm like, oh, this is cool. And they were pretty cheap. And some of the lunch money, I bought a couple comics. And I'm like, I noticed there was a huge line of people holding comics and stuff. And I'm like, ask the guy, what's going on here? And he goes, well, it's a Comic Con. it's a convention out here. I'm like, it's a convention? What do you mean? He goes, see what I do? There's like a million things upstairs. I go, how much is it to get in? And at the time it was like $20 or maybe 10,
Uh,
15. I run back
yeah.
to my mom and I go, hey, hook me up with something to do. She's like, I'd get rid of you. We'd get rid of you for maybe like the entire day because they were really busy that day. It just happened
Uh-huh.
they brought me. And just
Uh-huh.
like, perfect. Here's, 50 or whatever it
Bargain.
was, whatever. And I run out and I go down to this comic show. So I get in
Uh-huh.
there and, your brain, just like
Overload.
today when people go to shows, it's
Uh-huh.
information overload. And you look at
Yes.
the books, you look at the prices, you look at the people, and it's like
Mm-hmm.
people watching. And as a creative kid, you see all this, and you just
Mm-hmm.
it seeps into your core. And
Uh-huh.
you walk around, and it was probably, let's say, mid '80s or late '80s, I guess. And it was like that indie underground comics explosion. So there was a lot of indie creators. So
Right.
the, I walk around and I'm like, I was talking to somebody. I realized later it was Bernie Wrightson. He
What?
was there.
You talked to the legend.
There.
Oh.
Yeah, I, I
Oh.
I kicked myself in the head for not buying because I was looking at one of his Frankenstein,
Oh.
some book that he had in the originals. He had originals there, and I met
Ah.
one of my heroes, one of my artistic heroes there. And the funny thing is, I picked up the book outside because it was
Uh-huh.
risque, and the guy sold it to me. He didn't care. He didn't care. It was an indie comic. If any of you guys know Faust by Tim Vidler,
Yes.
I'm a
Awesome.
big fan
Mm-hmm.
of Tim's, and I go in there and then I see his name, and I walk up and
Yeah.
I'm like, hey, I draw, and da-da-da. He was very nice and cordial, and
Uh-huh.
for a kid, and it just got me hooked because you see the detail of the art. I mean, you really appreciate the artwork,
Oh
and
my gosh.
then you see simpler art, and I was hooked at the artist section, walking around, but you don't know how to behave, what to say, so you're just like mesmerized by these people.
Mm-hmm.
And funny thing is, years later at a convention, we shared a hotel room with Tim. I
Mm-hmm.
became friends with Tim. um
Uh-huh.
it just goes full circle, as you get older and you bump into people. And
Uh-huh.
that's kind of my journey through with the comics. I went to School of Visual Arts for illustration. Oh, before that, I went to Cooper Union for summer program, and that was like it really heavily introduction in the summer for fine arts, drawing, life drawing, painting, um, photography, design. So it kind of opened you up to more than just drawing pop culture references. And
Mm-hmm.
how kids right now just you go straight into drawing what you like, and you think you're just going to get great at that, but you
Right.
got to open your eyes up for other things. And that gave me an appreciation for fine arts and sculpture. And then I went to School of Visual Arts for illustration and design, graphic design, and had a bunch of great teachers there. Learned a lot. Um, Sometimes I wish I went to the Kubert School because it was closer to me, and I just
Uh-huh.
think that it would have been a lot more focused on comic creation.
Uh-huh.
Again, it's people and you would be there a little faster than getting. But I'm glad I got a generalized education and
Yeah.
art.
Right. I mean,
And
you have your own
they don't
journey.
really teach you. And the thing is art school is kind of interesting. On one hand, you could be self-taught as an artist, but it
Mhm.
helps, when you have some people in the collective, that you see every day, that some things you try new things, you get new perspectives. So it's kind of a balancing act with art school. Some people say you don't need to go, it's a waste of money. It might be another, but on the other hand, you get that community and you kind of focus, and it's what you put into it,
Exactly. That's what I was
what you
gonna
get.
say.
Um,
You get what you put into it.
so, so that's kind of something I really enjoyed doing: portraitures, landscapes, trying to learn more storytelling. That was less a focus in SVA for me because we were more focused on illustration. Now you got to remember, this is a time before when computer design was just kind of hitting its peak.
Mm-hmm.
So like 3D was just kind of coming in, 3D Max, certain things. So a lot of things were done by hand, and
Yes.
the techniques and styles. So Photoshop was cool to like play with, but it wasn't like a focus by the mass people that we were like
Uh-huh.
learning it. Illustrator, we were learning it how to apply, but you really wanted to learn the craft of doing it by hand. So in the 90s, it's 90, I'd say 90. I graduated high school 94. So yeah, 90, 95, 96. So so I got kind of, I was like that sweet spot in between. Like if it was a couple of years, if I went to school a couple of years later, it would be a lot of digital. They were transitioning. So things like reference materials, they had a huge reference morgue library. That was
Mm-hmm.
fascinating. It was just kind of this kind of learn by fire, because I want to do computer stuff because that's hot and new. At the same time, you're doing I want to learn the mastery of how the masters did it, how
Mm-hmm.
Rembrandt did it. You learn how to paint like Renoir, or or then you do like the classic artists. And I was really into Russian realism, like, because I have, my mother collected a lot of Russian art books, so I always had lots of art books around. So
Mm-hmm.
I get a lot of influence from that. So that's kind of my journey. And as time went on, I decided, I got to start doing shows, and I got to start, you it's like the time makes the person, I guess. So when the internet starts coming out, you're like, what am I going to do with this? Oh, social media. Well, what am I going to do with this? And you're a little bit trending behind until you catch up, or the technology catches
I
up,
know.
so that you can promote yourself. And you know um
Yeah.
so that's kind of the artistic journey. I keep drawing, I keep evolving. I like to use many different techniques, um, just depending on what it is and what it's for, because I have a commercial art mindset to some degree. So like I
Mm-hmm.
know that something like you could see the Joker, and to somebody that's kind of cool. It takes a lot of time. On one hand, I did it for myself as a promotional piece, so you could still
Uh-huh.
purchase it. It's a sketch cover. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so I just make these for myself, and eventually I'll sell them, or I'll do originals for people, for requests at shows, or you could commission me. Um, but like, I try to experiment with the inks. For a while I didn't draw in ink. I did a lot of like pencil drawing. Then I stopped, and I'm like, you know what? I gotta up my inking game. So I went to the
Mm-hmm.
inking. Then I'm like, you know what? I haven't done color in a while, so I'll do marker, watercolor. And then, I haven't painted in a while, so I'll bust out the paints. Like I haven't painted oil in a while, so I'm like itching to
Mm-hmm.
to do something. Um, any and on top of that, I also do, design elements in terms of,
Mm-hmm.
graphic design, logos. Occasionally I do mural work, which is fun because it's a different mindset you get into.
Uh-huh.
So it's like it runs the gamut with me. It's just project by
Yeah.
project, and
I
and I
I
am
have to
like on to the
say
next.
that to me, hearing your story in terms of like, aside from, I mean, hearing your story at the very beginning as a kid, 12-year-old, 12-year-old kid, being unleashed on the streets of New York, and then discovering comics, and
Unleashed,
then going to a yes, and then you go to a Comic Con.
like
That that
42nd
that
Street.
yeah. When I heard that story just now, I mean, that's new to me. I have to say, it makes me think about my first Comic Con experience. Of course, I wasn't. I grew up in a really rural area of Virginia, so I didn't experience a con until much later in my life. But I can imagine going to like your first con. It's like going to like a Toys R Us. You walk in, and instead of toys down every aisle, you see artists and comics and all this visual stimulus just beating beating you down, and you're like you said, sensory overload. And it's so fascinating to me that that was kind of like a a guiding experience where you said, you know what, I'm gonna go to School of Visual Arts. And you mentioned the Kubert School. Going to this was your own path. You went to the School of Visual Arts. You got rounded. You became a rounded individual in terms of looking at graphic design, learning the fine arts, as well as the comic and illustration media. So I really think that shaped you. That shaped what we're seeing right here. It's amazing.
And it's
Go
the
ahead.
journey. It's the journey of going and getting to school. Like getting on the train, because I commuted from Jersey, from the suburbs. I grew up in Livingston, New Jersey, which is like a decent suburb, and commuting all the way to the city. Sometimes staying there. Live there
Yeah.
back and forth. With your art supplies and the struggle of getting to class on time, bringing your wet art, if it's a wet painting, and smearing it to have it critiqued or something like that. It builds resilience. I'm sorry,
Resilience.
resilience.
Yeah.
Like all of a sudden you spent like hours at a piece, and something smears or something, and you're like,
Oh no, that's where you say that was 100% intentional. The smear, it was planned.
That fine art. You call that fine art?
And we got a comment here from Steph. He said, "Oh, he's one of those artists." So I guess he was like,
no. I'm totally not a snob.
And I hear we got Jason.
The ball busting begins.
Yes, he says, "Draw me like one of your French girls." Dan, I actually popped this up earlier, but you were like still like talking about your origin story. So I really didn't want to like interrupt you, but I take it these characters. They definitely are coming out of the woodwork to like welcome you here on the show and give you a little bit of a hard time. But yeah, these are the kind of friends you want. They want to encourage you in their own way. But yeah, I had to treat you. Go ahead. What were you going to say?
Bring it on.
Oh, okay, bring it on. Okay, no problem.
I love
it. Well, light up that comment field if you have some memories or compliments, or you want to roast Dan. Len. Just go ahead and put that.
Don't worry, I get that a lot.
I'm sorry. I just wanted to I was looking at this and I heard your story about Bernie Wrightston. Unfortunately, he's passed away, but I have to say that you mentioned, meeting him and, you being in the horror, loving the horror genre and doing those type of comics. I look at this or those type of illustrations. It actually makes me look at your artwork in a different perspective because I can see a little bit of that influence. Of course, nobody can do what Bernie did. I mean, Bernie is like,
no.
I mean, he would put insane amount of details in there, but I can see some of the influence. You mentioned some names there, and
the whole EC artist pool. You just go down the list of EC artists, Graham Ingalls, all these guys. It's like it was just something like that drilled into my head. And again, growing up in the 80s, you had all the horror movies, you had the Nightmare on Elm Street, you had the Friday the 13th movies, and my parents, my mother who raised me, she didn't know any better. She's like, what are you watching? Or what do you like at I think 1984, I believe it was the year, or 1982. I was probably 7 or 6, 7, maybe 8. She wanted to go to the mall and with another lady friend of hers, and I must have brought one of my buddies, and they're like, oh, you could go to the movies. They used to drop off the kids to the movies, pay for the movies and pick them up, an hour or so later, and it was fine. Conan the Barbarian, one of my favorite characters. The movie came out, and I'm like, I want to see Conan, the guy with the sword. It's Arnold. And you just drop us off. We'd go see him. It was rated R. They bought the tickets. You go in. They don't know any better. And, these things influence you. They get burned into your head. And,
well, what? You turned out to be.
From that day on.
You turned out to be an okay kid. You weren't physically, you weren't emotionally scarred by seeing Conan the Barbarian.
No,
at such
I don't look at it that way. I don't think about it that way.
No, I was saying that jokingly because I myself, I have to say that listening to your story, uh, I think we would have been like really good friends if I lived in Jersey or if you lived in Virginia because we kind of did the same thing. You know, both of it sounds like both of our parents were just really busy and they kind of just left us a little
Latchkey
bit to
kid.
our own.
Latchkey kid.
Yeah, yeah, they left us to our own devices, but they, you know, we had you know, they gave us the guidance, and luckily we were able to like look at all that great 80s nostalgia, all those great 80s movies and toys, and you know, the movies that you were talking about, like Friday the 13th and Nightmare on Elm Street. I remember my dad let me rent that movie, the very first one, and I just realized, you
Oh,
know, I was a little freaked out. You know, I was
oh,
watching, like, man, this is, but you know what? I think our generation, we were able to like kind of look at that and realize this is fantasy.
yeah.
This is not real. This is just, you know, it's entertainment, and we just
We
took
are
it for what it was.
the Tarantino blockbuster video store rental kids
Yes,
who
exactly.
got influenced by schlock videos and music and concerts. Yeah, and the more people of my age that I meet who are into the creative field, or who
Uh-huh.
love this genre of entertainment, comics and pop culture, we all share
Yes,
that similar. We come at it from maybe different
exactly.
socioeconomic or different backgrounds, but it all ties us together that we were derelicts. We were like just force fed all this cool stuff, which they don't have.
Uh,
They have that now, and it's
I
like now
know.
being a nerd is cool, but
Uh-huh.
it's like where's our Marvel movies? When we were kids, it would have been cool, but it would have been just
Uh-huh. Yeah,
another version. So
I think we're becoming our
where's the
parents in the
cool?
sense that we go like, oh man, in our generation, it was so
It's
much better, blah
inevitable.
blah blah. Yeah, exactly. Hey, but let's talk a
But
little
but
bit
we
more
were
about.
but we
Uh,
were the cool generation. We were the
yeah,
cool generation.
I'm there with you. We're gonna be, yeah. So
We had like 4 or 5 different eras going on, and
uh,
decades that were like wild.
I totally feel you. I know what you're talking about. But yeah, let's steer this back to your art because it was nice to hear your influences. Everything from going to those cons at an early age, being exposed to all those those questionable horror movies that are now iconic now. But I you went to the School of Visual Arts and you honed your craft, and I'm just looking at this because me being particularly phobic of inking, I look at your artwork and I'm just amazed because what you're able to do with your positive, negative spaces, your strokes, when to use. I see these splatter effects too, like when to put, to work back in those whites. I am, I'm not a huge fan of the Max, but I like this piece, because to me the shows not only your attention to detail, but you've created such a great amount of depth and volume, and your strokes. They're so. I think this is the word that I've been using now when I describe artists that ink,
My
or
strokes are
actually just
good.
art. Yeah, your strokes are good, but I'm going to say that it's 100% intentional. Everything. It's like where you need to put, those really concentrated areas of blacks. You know where to put some grays to add, that volume. So to me, I look at this and it has such three dimensionality. I don't even know if that's such a word. I'm just saying it looks very 3D, but it's obviously traditional flat media. You want to talk a little bit about your process, like in terms of like how you build an illustration, because we're gonna actually get to show that later on. But your thought
Okay.
process, like in terms of this piece.
Well, depending on the what the subject matter is, and size, subject matter, time constraints, all these affect what my pieces look like.
Mhm.
So if I have a little more time and a little more kind of, it's done for me, like painterly, that's a separate entity. But when I do more comic art, I
Mhm.
tend to do like a rough drawing. I don't get very detailed. It's kind of more just placement. It's very fast, sketchy. um
Mhm.
I try not to. I don't like whittling it to. I want it. What's the word? I want it to be kinetic energy. I want it to be sketchy. I want it to have a little bit of a leeway to fill in as I develop it. So
Mhm.
I give myself sort of like a general guidelines, and then I just go at it, and maybe I'll cover up things if I add color. So started with a fast kind of loose pencil sketch, and then I build it up with tones, a little gray, maybe outline, just to get
Mm-hmm.
the blacks, because I kind of know what I want to do in my head. It's kind of I already have a pretty good idea of what it's going to look like, and I want to be surprised during the process. So,
Mm-hmm.
you know, like for instance, I don't know what the zombies are going to look like in the background. It's kind of a rough,
Uh-huh.
like you looking at the Motorhead Lemmy, and the concept
Uh-huh.
was I was going to do Walking Dead. I had a bunch of Walking Dead covers, and Walking Dead is kind of popular. And then some of the rock stars started to pass, my favorites, and I just decided to draw a whole bunch of rock stars, on the Walking Dead covers, and do like a series of these, put them either in the zombie form or just hanging out and having a party. So see, like the zombies in the background, it's kind of the guy on fire, like something like
Uh-huh.
that is kind of spontaneous. It's a loose sketch, and it's interesting how he's going to come out, what kind of expression he's going to have on his face. What are like the nuances on the shirt, the little smears, those kinds of things. It surprises me, so I like to be surprised as it develops. And color
Yeah. I
color
have.
is the same. It's the same. It's kind of a process. Like, do I go bright color and make it kind of fun, or do I go muted? Do I go retro, kind of, psychedelia, like this Frankenstein piece? It's
I
kind of
know.
like
Love
that was
this.
my thought. So this was my thought. I did.
Uh-huh.
So the zombie rock stars inspired me to do a couple of like Universal monsters, because I love the monster genre. I love the Universal monster. Everybody loves
Mhm.
Frankenstein. Frankenstein is the first Superman, right? So,
Yeah.
you kind of, I like the juxtaposing it kind of throwing, putting a Spider-Man on a Superman cover, something like that.
Well,
Um,
I'm gonna have to say for this particular piece, I think this is a great embodiment of your particular journey as not only as a comic artist, horror fan, as well as a graphic designer. Because I look at this piece, this could be like pop culture art. I'm looking at this, and it's like you've taken a classic monster, you've put like the comic stamp on it as Superman, but then you look at these colors and they're almost like Andy Warhol, like like color palette here,
right.
which is
And
these
that's my
crazy
design
like
element coming through.
yes, and that's your design. That's what I took from your art. We looked at just I look at your art and aside from the technical aspects of it just being right on point, I look at this piece here, and this is like the culmination of a lot of the interests that you've had while growing up, leading up through your college education, um, all the way up to like where you are now in terms of just doing mixing and matching and merging all that stuff together. So this is just phenomenal stuff. Yeah, I have to say that's one thing that I really like. You mentioned your artwork as being very kinetic. Has that energy in there, but it
I
also
like the swamp thing one. Take a look at that swamp thing one, or
the swamp thing.
the
Yeah,
headshot.
this one.
Yeah,
Yes,
see, it's like
yeah.
I so the we're gonna do something like this today,
Uh-huh.
and it's a fast, to me it's a fast strokes, fast drawing. This is kind of stuff I would do at conventions, or to draw in front of people, um,
Uh-huh.
for headshots or headshot, shoulder shot, that type of thing. Um, I like the energy of the inks, the effects you get for it, but again, it's for the
Hmm.
character. You couldn't do this if you
Yeah.
were going to try to do a beautiful, elegant, detailed, something or other,
uh,
like if you're drawing the costume details where it's like sci-fi,
uh-huh.
you could add elements to it, you know
Uh-huh.
um but I like the organic element. That I'm very like into the
Exactly.
organic feel of it,
Uh-huh.
so that's
Totally,
how I
totally.
kind of come.
Yeah, I totally feel that, and I see that in your artwork. And I'm gonna have to say, it's like if you said you do this quickly, it's like this would take me like hours to even try and get an inkling close to like what you're putting in here, and you do capture it. It
Sometimes
does
you don't want to
feel
think, you want to do.
yeah, it's like it's automatic for you, and that's what I'm going to say is that your art style is definitely uniquely Len, and I really enjoy it because it does have a personality to it. And this is Swamp Thing, and actually he looks a little bit more somber. But when I look at it, it's like it feels alive, even though he's
A
not
little
like
smirk.
yeah, well, it's not like
Yeah.
he's like screaming or like he's grimacing or he's like angry, but
He's a
this kind of
plant.
like smirk. Yeah, he's vegetating, but it's vegetating in a very very dynamic way. I'm gonna say that,
Right.
but it looks phenomenal. And you know what? This is a good point. I thought that with all the pieces that we had, let me actually minimize this real quick so we can see our faces.
That's okay.
1 second. Yeah. All right. So yeah, it's okay. Hey, we got to see the man behind all this art. So,
As they say, I
so
have a face meant for radio.
hey, your voice. I have to tell you, you have a great radio voice. That's good to hear. You're coming through like loud and clear. But yeah. So I thought you gave me like I want to say it was close to 80 pieces, and I actually showed all of them during your origin story, and it was impressive. Like I said, it's a visual backdrop to hearing your creative journey, and I have to say that it was just impressive. Me looking through it and then listening to you tell your story, it added another layer to the respect that I have for you and your artwork. So
Thank you.
got a little. You're very much welcome. So I think we got a little bit of a preview because Len has talked about like we have the Swamp Thing here. We're going to go into our first live drawing part. Now, like with all of our live drawings on Let It Out, we encourage audience participation. So if you feel like you'd like to draw along, please do. We will have 15 to 20 minutes to do each drawing with the caveat that Len, if you decide that you want to spend an extra amount of time, you can. I cannot add time to the clock. You can. So I'm going to put 15 minutes on the clock right now. And I talked to Len about like what we're going to do for this particular live drawing, what for his appearance. So we're going to do something a little bit different in the sense that rather than drawing something completely from scratch, like that's what I'm going to do. But in Len's case is that we've already got to see like his phenomenal skills and talent in terms of just putting that initial sketch down. But what's so impressive about what he does is the next step, which is the inking and that capturing that lightning in a bottle and putting something like you see here with Swamp Thing. So what we're going to do is he's already laid down the foundation for the two drawings, the live drawings that we're going to do. And the first live drawing we're going to do is the iconic Masters of the Universe villain Skeletor, which, we talked about how the 80s toys were so much better than what we get right now, I guess. But there's so much nostalgia in there. I'm so happy that he picked it because, we're not only going to get to see the process, but we're going to talk about that process. And, of course, Skeletor, Masters of the Universe. We're going to hear a little bit about what's so special about Skeletor and actually see the art process after the initial sketch has been put down. So that being said, I'm going to put 15 minutes on the clock, and we will start there. And I'm going to solo out your cam, Len, and then we'll go from there. All right. So let me pull up that, and here we go.
Right.
I'm looking at this. Yeah. Go ahead. The clock is ticking,
So initially, I gave you a couple of choices of drawings, and like you said, I just like to go in and just start inking and doing that process. So I did two. Are we seeing it good? Is it too light?
Yes,
too dark?
I can.
So
I can see it.
Two, and I know you picked this one to do.
I did.
So the other one will have to toss to the side.
I love it. I love both of them equally, but I think this one has a little bit more to it because we get to see a bit of his armor.
Penciling. So my penciling is very rough. Let's see. I'm trying to balance it and show you guys. It's Skeletor shoulder shot with a little bit of demonic elements popping out of his crest on his chest. So I'm just seeing it a little blurry, but okay. Everybody sees it good. We'll just go at it.
All
and
right.
chat a little bit about Skeletor,
I'm gonna pop.
master of evil.
Yeah, I'm gonna let you get drawing, but I just want to pop up a couple comments because we got Steph chiming in here, and Steph says, "Leave some white on the page, Len." So I think he was talking about some of your other artwork, but we're gonna see this white page get dirtied up here with some classic inking
I listen
from Len.
when Steph talks. You should listen.
uh,
He is absolutely phenomenal artist. I had the pleasure.
and then we have.
I had the pleasure of I chat with him every online, and I finally got to see him at a convention because we keep missing each other at these shows. Either they'll be doing some show somewhere else where I can't get to. So it's kind of nice that this past weekend I finally got to meet him and his lovely wife.
Mm-hmm.
In
Yeah,
person. So it was real cool.
I think cons have become like the mecca for the coming together of creatives, especially after being locked down and for COVID for like a couple years. I have to say that I got to not to say meet, I got to know a lot of indie creators, and I'm waiting for the day where I can go to the cons and meet them as well. So it's nice that you're getting them to meet some of those people. Yeah,
and it's such a pleasure when you meet them and they're great people, and you're like, it warms your heart when you meet somebody and they're not what you think that they could have been, or they're think they're cocky, or you think something's up with them, just from what you hear or something like that, and then you meet them, they're like fantastic people.
What is that comment they say? It's like never meet your heroes, and I was like going,
never meet your heroes.
I think for artists, gotta meet your artist heroes. How about that?
Do you know it's true, because sometimes you meet an artist, like I've met a bunch of artists on this journey, and for the majority, everybody's a sweet individual. They're doing their business, they're doing something they love. They go through their ups and downs as you get to meet them. Everybody's trying to make a living or do something they love, make a living out of it. That's the key thing. If you can make a living at something you love and you're good at, and people like it, I mean, that's gold in the, that's lightning in a bottle. Yeah. And we're all on the same journey, just maybe different styles, different ways. It's a family. There's only so many people who do this. Everybody wants to do it, but there's only so many people that get a chance to, hit their strides and actually, achieve in this business.
Well, I'm gonna say the other comment is like, if you love what you do, which like in our case is art, you never work a day in your life, right? If you can where you're doing what you love, then it's like, wow, I get to do this and I get paid for it, right? So it's always a bonus when you can look at it that way.
So that's so like right now I'm just kind of putting down the ground, kind of outlining, giving it like a loose, just so I could see what I'm going to do with it in terms of darks, blacks. Kind of, I'm really drawing it. The real drawing happens at this stage. Like when I do the pencils, it's more like a rough layout, a guide, but the real drawing happens in the inking process. So a lot of inkers, when they ink other people's work. So I've been doing that lately. I've been like printing out, some pencil drawings like of a Wrightson, Swamp Thing, and trying to do quick inks on it. I could show that a couple pieces later, and just learning how to do it my way, but over their drawings. And I know you're a fantastic artist yourself, and I saw some of your work, and I'm like, I love the energy of it. I love the energy of it, and I'm like, some of those pieces, I would have fun inking over that type of energy. So we got to get something going, you and I.
Yeah, so you heard it here first. We're gonna do a Len and Gerald collaboration in the future. So I would be honored if we could do that. So let's talk about Skeletor though.
All right, Master of Evil.
Yes, Master of Evil. So I guess you liked the Filmation cartoon that was back in the 80s.
Introduction. Yeah, of course, 80s kid. My introduction to Skeletor and Masters
Uh-huh.
of the Universe was so when we came to this country, I was about four and a half. I turned 5 probably within a couple of months being here. Now,
Uh-huh.
my parents separated, and it was during the Cold War, and they allowed people to leave, the Jewish community to leave. Certain people left early, and they came here with almost nothing, and they came together with other people who were immigrating, and those people that we all kind of were placed in the same areas, New Jersey, Israel, all the different places that you could choose to go, Canada at the time.
Uh-huh.
So how does this relate to Skeletor? So when my mom came here, and she had a little kid, she has to entertain the little kid, have Matchbox cars, all that stuff, so
Uh-huh.
she goes shopping, and for an immigrant, they don't have this type of entertainment at that time in the old Soviet bloc, so to
Uh-huh.
her this is all new and interesting, but not really, like what is these monsters? We went to a store, and there was a toy store, and guess what was on the shelves with the a whole rack of He-Man, Masters of the Universe, first line,
Uh-huh.
He-Man, and I'm like, what is that? A blue guy with a skull, a sword, all these muscles. You're like, as a little kid, you're like, that
I want
is
that.
for
I
me.
want that.
I want to be I want to be He-Man, like, and you see a little comic. So, here how it segues into comics. Those comics that came with that with the first runs of the Masters of the
Mm-hmm.
Universe, the
The mini
art in
comics.
there was amazing. Yeah, the mini
It
comics.
was.
And you saw
Uh,
and if you remember the first mini comics, they were done, they were essentially Conan the Barbarian. They were
there
Conan.
were. It was. Yep.
That's what He-Man is, right? So
Mm-hmm.
back to Conan, how it related, Conan's my favorite character, but Skeletor essentially is Thulse of Doom, right? From the
Mm-hmm.
Cult comics. So it's all interconnected, and my love for that kind of art, it just sparked right there, and I'm like, I must have this Skeletor. I must collect them all, I had
Skeletor.
the
He
Castle
will be mine. He will
Grayskull.
be mine. Yeah.
Yeah, I had the Castle Grayskull. I had all the, it was just like a life. That's where the love of the toys comes
Uh-huh.
from. To this day, I still enjoy it. I still have them. I still have my original
Oh, you
Skeletor. I still
do?
have my, yeah.
That's awesome.
I remember
That's great.
getting Man at Arms, and my friends
Uh-huh.
were playing. They had Faker and all that, and one of my friends borrowed my Man at Arms, and then when you take off those what are they called? Those the
Armor.
outfits they had, that
Yep.
armor, this
Uh-huh.
piece. I don't know how his got loose and it fell and it scratched. So I have this huge scratch on Man at Arms, and I was so
Uh-huh.
like devastated that my toy, because you're not going to get another one. Pretty much, that's that. That's that. That's your Man at Arms. That's
Hey,
it.
well, you know
You
what?
know.
You got to say that's authentic battle damage, right? Authentic
Do
battle
you
damage.
know? To this day, every once in a while when I see that and I
Uh,
see the character, and I'm like, I wouldn't have it. I wouldn't change it for the world. That I remember that
uh-huh.
moment. There it is.
Yeah.
You look at the toy. It's like going to catching that baseball at a baseball game, or
Mm-hmm.
that type of thing. You remember it forever. So
Mm-hmm.
you know that's my love for these
This
characters,
character
and
has
the
right has a special
yeah this
special place in your heart
yeah
in
my
terms
my
of
my
that.
buddy damaged it, so I still talk to my buddy. Yeah, I still talk to him.
Uh-huh.
So I
Have
go,
you
you
seen
damaged
the
my.
Have you seen the new Masters? They did a relaunch, I think, last
Yeah, it was
year.
it was pretty. It was fun. It was fun.
I I
It,
have to say that I was
I
a little disappointed. That was just my own,
well,
because I think
do
they
you know,
kind of like, didn't, it felt
they didn't
a
do it
little
justice.
forced. Well, I have to tell
Yeah,
you, I love remember when in the 2000 X line. I love that one.
yeah,
I love
those
the
were cool.
style of those figures. And I felt like they like retconned a lot of things, and it felt like, they were, and what they did to Castle Grayskull. It's like Castle Grayskull is actually this futuristic castle underneath all that stone, and I was like, what? Why did you change that? I mean, it felt like
I
they
mean,
just they changed it for the sake of changing it, not to like build
yeah,
on the
I'm not
lore.
a fan. I'm not a fan of the politically correct. Although I can appreciate
Mhm.
certain aspect of that type of stuff. I don't. I'm not of the generation that subscribes to it. My
Uh-huh.
kids. I have two daughters, and I see how their friends are, and they're like, oh, kind of thing. This kids in school. I was
Uh-huh.
telling my daughter, we were having a conversation. I go, your coolest kid in school would have been the biggest nerd in my school. I go, in my school, the biggest nerd in my school would have been the coolest kid in your high school. It's just a generational thing. And you
It's a
know what?
different
I'm okay
generation.
with it. Yeah, I'm
I
okay with
like,
it, man.
yeah, I think that's
I'm okay
cool.
with,
Yeah.
because you look at these Batman movies, you see the Marvel movies. I look at them as
Mhm.
comic books, right? They're
Yep.
they're the group of artists that came together to design that particular movie, that particular show, that particular comic. It's their interpretation. It's not.
Hmm.
I don't feel anything towards it. Like, I would have liked to see my version of Masters of the Universe, but Masters of the Universe in my head is totally different than what let's say Kevin Smith is.
Yep.
I have
Hmm.
artist friends who actually want to work on Masters of the Universe, or could have had a chance to, you know.
Hmm.
Um, and it's everybody has their opinions and stuff, but overall, I don't think it was so bad. I don't think it was so bad for reboot for that new generation.
Okay.
I see your
Fair.
point.
Fair
I
enough.
see your point.
Fair enough. I had to say that you're right. I think we get caught up in the nostalgia, and it's like not our Masters of the Universe,
Yeah,
and that's okay. I think everybody has is room for
give it up.
inter- interpretation, and the difference is like, hey, if you feel like, hey, it's not what you would like it to be, then happen.
Just watch the
Go
old
out and
ones.
or watch the old ones, but make it happen. Like go out and try and work on a new interpretation, or do a fan fiction of it and do it in the way that you think that it
I
should be.
saw
And I think
gorgeous
that,
fan fiction of it. There's some
are
artists
you
out
talking?
there on
Mm-hmm.
Instagram who do these amazing fan fiction pieces, and you're like, oh my god, that's somebody like would interpret it, a totally different way. And I enjoy it when they do it totally
Mm-hmm.
from a different, make Skeletor into something totally unexpected. Totally,
Yeah,
that to
and
me is kind of fun to see.
yeah, and that's the difference. That's what I love about doing comics cast, is because they're creators like you, that are not sitting on their hands, and they're deciding, what, I may not like what's out there in terms of comics or the entertainment or whatever, but they're not just complaining about it, they're actually just doing it. You're creating art, you're creating what you like or what you would like to see out there. And that's what I find so inspiring, is that that's the product of, or that's the result of maybe seeing something that you may or may not agree with, but you're not just complaining about it. You're just like, hey, I'm going to create that story, that needs to be told. And I would have to say, I would be remiss in like talking about one particular success story that's going on now, right now. You've heard of what's happened with Mr. Eric July and the Rippaverse, where
No,
he's doing his.
close.
Oh, you haven't heard of him? Okay. Do you know
No.
who Eric? Do you know who Eric July is? Do you know? Have you heard of
It
him?
sounds familiar. Sounds familiar. I mean,
Okay,
educate
he's
me.
been a okay. He is well known in the I guess the comic circles or entertainment circles as being somebody who's politely and been very outspoken about like the industry, and he's had really great commentary in terms of what's been going on and what we've been, as fans, as just seeing what's out there. And he decided, I'm going to do my own comic. I'm going to make something happen, and I'm going to put it out there, and and I think he even came up with his own crowdfunding.
Good
He's
for
not
him.
actually even using Kickstarter. Well, I think it was yesterday or the day before yesterday, he raised over $2 million on his first
Good
comic
for him.
book. And I was
Good for
like,
him.
that is amazing. That is amazing. And he did, it's like you. He's a creator who said, you know what, I'm just going to. He's not a. I don't think he's a artist, but he's a writer, and he put together a
Good.
team, and he made it happen. And that's like
Good.
every indie creator success story right there.
Good for him. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
really, seriously, that's I love listening to stories like that. I mean, I know some of my friend artists and creatives constantly trying to do their own projects, and I honestly I rather see creative owned new stuff than the same
Mm-hmm.
rehash, although the rehash is always interesting. It just depends on the creative team. Sometimes it's a story, sometimes it's uh the artist. Sometimes, like, I enjoy Batman, but how many Batman stories can you
Can you
take
do
in?
right? Mm-hmm.
But if it's a cool team and it's beautiful artwork, I'll forgive, maybe the story, or, if it's beautiful art, you know, it's one of those types of things. You, you can't please everybody, but
Yes,
people who do their own thing, I give them so much props.
I agree
I
with you
give them.
completely. And you know what? Okay. This is. I'm gonna. We just hit the 15-minute mark.
Okay. Okay.
I'm going to say, hey, I'm gonna resist the urge to look at what you're drawing, because I want to
Okay.
be surprised. But let's say, do you want to add? Let's add, since we're only doing two drawings. Let's add another 7 minutes to this. You feel good about that? And
Yeah,
that way
let's
we
do
can.
that,
Okay.
because I'm
All
gonna.
right. I'm adding 7 more minutes in there, and that'll allow you to know that, like I said, or like we did with all of our other live drawings. Do not feel the pressure to like do a completely finished piece, because I just want our audience to get an idea of the process, to get to see the magic happen a little bit, and later on, if you feel so inclined, share the finished piece later on, and that way people can see where it started on this show, and get to see the finished piece later on.
Awesome.
Right. Okay. So, I guess following up on Skeletor here and the Masters of the Universe, and we just we talked about the Rippaverse there. So, do you see yourself coming up with your own original character, your own horror character, and maybe doing
Um,
doing some sort of crowdfunding as well?
yeah. Actually, a little while back, probably a couple months back, a friend of my artist creator, Nick Justice, who was a big supporter of me getting kind of my comics act in gear. We worked on a indie comic that we had crowdfunded for
Uh
just
huh.
just for print, and it was under the radar. It was like, oh, let's just post it and see which one of our guys will just support us to get it printed, almost like a calling card. So he came
Uh
up with
huh.
an idea. I kind of edited it a little bit, and he did the penciling, and I kind of embellished it and inked it. Called Virginia Creeper. It's a simple black and white
Oh,
comic.
I. Uh huh.
No, yeah, yeah, nothing,
We had some art
nothing
that
too.
we showed from that,
Yeah, yeah,
didn't we?
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, we
Uh-huh.
did. It was a girl on a rock kind of thing. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I definitely 100% want to find a creative team. I like collaboration. I enjoy, somebody who could help out. Put a book together. This is a team effort kind of thing, and I do enjoy being part of groups, collective, because I learn stuff, they learn stuff. So
Right, right.
to to do it all on your own, yeah, that's awesome. I kudos to you. But
Hmm.
you want to do it right. So I'm
Right.
definitely looking to do more indie stuff and put some of my own stuff together. That's something that's in the works. It's just a matter of putting all the things in the right basket, and then off we go to the races. Because
I'm
I
looking.
want to make sure that I get it
Yeah.
out. I want to make sure that it comes to your house. I don't want to dilly dally on it. I want to get it done. You know,
Hmm.
so
I have to say that I'm looking forward to when you do that, because I can already see it, and the collaboration thing is always good, because I can honestly say I have many faults in terms of I don't have the confidence of inking like you do, and being able to put those
look at the
deliberate
size of the
intentional
marker
lines.
that I like. I love these. You see,
Oh
like
yeah.
this at
Yeah.
shows. When I whip this out at shows, it
Uh-huh.
frightens people. They're like, "What are you about to do?" I said, I'm gonna
That's funny.
mess things up. So
uh,
you know,
I
there is
I
no
think that's
right or
great.
wrong.
Well, I was going to say that when you decide to put your own uh, IP OC, whether it's by yourself or with uh, as a collaboration with somebody, I think it's going to rock because I already, like I said, you've already mastered all the technical aspects. It's maybe finding that the right IP, the right OCs to
The right
add that.
story, the
Mhm,
right editor. I mean, it
mhm,
there's so many moving parts that you just want to feel confident that you could handle it to deliver. You want to deliver people a fun experience, and it's all tongue in cheek. I'm not looking for the masterpiece, my next
mhm.
masterpiece that I'm gonna claim my fame on. Oh, this is gonna be my project to become, the
Your
next
Met
Todd
your magnum
McFarlane.
right your
My
magnum
magnum,
opus.
my
So,
Spawn. I love,
uh,
kind of thing.
yeah. Speaking of which, you want to talk about that? We talked about Spawn. Like, what are you aside from like Freddy Krueger and Conan the Barbarian and Jason Voorhees? What other iconic characters are your
Uh,
inspiration?
uh, there's so many, but I tend to lean towards characters that have, I like the sword and sorcery. I like the horror. I like kind of funny stuff. Like sometimes, like Mad Magazine stuff. I do like a little
Oh,
humor, a
Mad
little
Magazine.
tongue in cheek, that type of stuff. Um, what else? It's just it runs the gamut, really. I do like classic stuff, just
Mhm.
because just the artistry is amazing. I love some of the indie creators that are going on right now. Um, I like outsider, lowbrow art.
Uh huh.
That's like tattoo art and what's the graffiti graffiti
Oh,
inspired art,
street
street
art.
art.
Yep.
Uh,
Mhm.
Sin City, huge fan of
Frank
Frank
Miller.
Miller, but it's like certain Frank Miller moments. It's not all of his art, but some
Hmm.
of his art. Um, just I'm a huge fan of Simon Bisley. Um, Frank Frazetta, of course.
Oh yeah.
Any illustrator worth its weight, will say Frank Frazetta. Frank Frazetta.
Mhm.
You take things from each one of them. I was lucky. I live not far from the Frazetta Museum. It's
Yeah.
probably like
Uh huh.
45 minutes. It's probably like 45 minutes away.
Uh huh.
Um,
That's on
and
my
I keep
bucket list.
trying to get there. I keep trying to get
Mhm.
there. It's close to me.
Uh
Um,
huh.
I keep trying to get there. Um, and I love Bisley. I've met him a bunch of times at shows. Sweet guy.
Hmm.
Real character. I love all the English artists, the UK artists. Uh, I get a kick from their humor, their Judge Dredd kind of stuff. The
Hmm.
Kevin O'Neill art. It just it just depends on the genre. Uh, Kyle Holtz is one of a friend that I chat with all the time, but he's like, I like his kinetic art. Um,
Hmm.
but character wise, I enjoy things like a Venom because it's like an organic. He has Joker's always a fun one,
Hmm.
because of the way you could play with that character so much. Just like Wolverine, the characters that were really hard to draw, I'll tell you, like a Superman, someone who's like, or the Flash. Like the Flash, you go, oh, that's the Flash. He's pretty simple. He has basically one stance. It's that
Uh
running
huh.
stance where you go, ha.
That's hard.
It's like
Hard to do.
it, and sometimes you're like, well, it's nothing is hard. It's the time you have to do it, and that's really
Uh
the
huh.
hard thing. It's like if you're doing it, hey, I got 5 minutes to draw this drawing like we're doing now. Oh, I'm on the
Hmm.
clock, so I got to be conscious of you know impressing you and getting it or selling it. You know, So that becomes kind of hard because,
Mhm.
you know, you're trying to do a lot in a little amount of time. But overall, you know, it's a time thing.
Mhm.
So the more time you have, the more you could, you know, fudge it, putz around with it, get it to where you want.
Speaking of
And if
time,
not,
we have 1 minute to
1
go.
minute.
1 minute. 1 minute. So take it as far as you can, and I'm excited to look at it because I only glanced up when you said you had that impressive black marker
Yeah,
that
I
you
haven't.
and I had to see
Yeah,
that, and luckily you had it overshadowing or
just right.
overlapping your photo, so I didn't get to see what you were drawing or your illustration. So I'm looking forward to seeing that. So 1 minute and counting, and
All right.
I get to look and see what fantastic artwork that you did. And, all right, and as we close out this particular drawing, live drawing, you mentioned something that I wanted to talk about, and I'm glad you reminded me. Is aside from the excellent technique that you do, you mentioned humor, and that is so right. I look at your pieces, and we were looking at that Walking Dead piece, and you had that seriousness of the likeness of that person that's in the foreground, of that rock star icon that passed away. But you also incorporated a bit of humor into the zombies that were in the background, and I find that you're very tactful. You're very good at
Because I don't.
in
I'm,
putting humor into your stuff.
yeah, you're like, I'm not about, you know, some people will say, oh, how could you draw these monsters, death, that type of thing. It's not about that for me. You know, the monsters, like, I like the design element of them. It's like more of a creative outlet. They're fun to draw. They make great shapes, you know, that type of
Uh-huh.
thing. And you know, you got to put a little humor, a little levity to it, because, you know, otherwise, some psycho, you know, like my kids aren't scared of this stuff, but, you know, I try not to, you know, kids come to your
Uh-huh.
table, you're like, oh my God, you know, this horror stuff. You're like,
Uh,
no. Like, I've done
uh,
work for Yo Books,
uh,
IDW. You know, I did
uh,
Popeye and I zombified Popeye. They asked me to do a zombie version of Popeye, and I gave him Popeye and olive oil. You know, you don't think of them as zombies, you know. So,
well,
you know, they're
that's
cute little
the
cartoon characters, but, you know,
right.
it's
Well,
fun to
you
do.
I'm going to say that
Change it up a little.
you've lenified them.
Lenified.
They've become lenified, right? Lenified.
Yeah.
Uh,
Lenified.
all
You know,
right,
and
so the 1 minute has totally elapsed. So I'm going to look up and I'm going to check out what you've done. Oh gosh, this is the part of the. Okay, this is where whenever I have a guest on here that I get completely like floored, and you are no exception, Len. I'm looking at this, and in the what we did, 15, we did it over just a little bit over 20 minutes here, and I am so impressed with this. I am so excited to see where you go with this. But already it has that attitude. It's been lenified here, so I'm just really totally impressed. And what I like about what you did, I know you did this.
and
This
I
is
haven't even
intentional.
added the splatter effects.
I know you haven't, but I'm looking at those abstract shapes that you have above his head, and they form skulls too. Um, amazing.
Coming out of
I
there.
just yes, brilliant. I didn't see those. I think you mentioned like the demons or something like that in the background, but I didn't notice that. And of course, now that you've inked it, I see it much more and brilliant. I love it. Look at this. He's
See,
putting in
there you
some.
go.
This is where yeah. Here's
This
the
is I
white.
love this. This is the kinetic style. I learned this. I learned this. Somebody said to me, "Do this. It'll be really cool." I'm like, "Oh, this comes alive." I love
Oh,
the energy.
this is the Len secret
I'll
weapon
add
is the whiteout pen. The whiteout pen.
the white. Just so you know, along with
uh,
my big pen, my
uh.
monster, I got a monster.
It's like the yin and yang, like of monster pens, and they
Yeah.
belong to Len.
You can go
Um,
from that to this. Like, it's like
it's
I,
like
when
no yeah, no pen is too big or too small.
I'm an art supply junkie. I love art supplies. So, like, you
Uh-huh.
know, if there's a new kind of art supply, a new ink, a new pen, somebody gives it
You're
to
on
me,
it.
or I'm like, oh, I gotta try it. I gotta use it.
Uh, Hey, well, you keep on drawing, because I'm going to look in the comment field to see if anybody drew along with us, and I'm going to pop up a couple comments here. So we have one of our mainstays here in our audience. We have Saeed, who I'm going to tell you that what I love about doing Comics Cast Let It Out is I get to bring our guests onto a international stage. Saeed hails from the Middle East. He's staying up late to watch this, and he said, "Nice work." And I had this slide down world saying, "Love this inking." And then we have Jason, who's chiming in again here. He says, "Digging it. The skulls in smoke vapor. Nice touch." Yeah, I have to say that just adds like another level of just awesomeness, that Len added to this illustration by putting those in there. So very cool. And then we have David who chimed in here. He said, "The Max got to be fun to draw like Spawn." Yeah, you saw that the Max was one of those art pieces that Len did that I showed in the origin story, and it was actually one of the featured artworks that I put into the banner to promote his appearance. Like I said, I'm not a big fan of the Max, but I'm a big fan of Len's version of the Max. What does it say? It just looks really, really phenomenal.
What is it that you're not a fan of the Max?
Well, I'm not a
the story.
It's just the art style. It's just not my jam, but I can respect it,
right.
and
okay.
it's not like
it's
I said,
an artist.
Yeah, but I look at
artist.
Right, but I respect him as an artist. It's kind of like Rob Liefeld.
That's cool.
Everybody can knock Rob Liefeld. Everybody can knock Rob Liefeld, but you have to respect the guy because
he's undeniable, as you say.
People are still talking about him ever since his. I mean, the guy's been around since. Remember those commercials for 5?
Yeah,
How many comic artists have done blue jean commercials?
I bumped into him at New York Comic Con. So like when you walk around the comic shows and you want to take pictures of stuff, and then you just kind of walking around looking at booths, vendors and stuff like that. And you see Rob, he's always busy with something. So, you're walking around the show. And there's a guy selling art supplies, and there was like nobody passing at that particular moment by his booth. And I'm like, there's Rob looking for pens. So I just stopped. I go, "You don't mind taking a picture?" He's like, "Come on over here." We took a picture together. I go, and that was cool. That was enough for me. I don't need an autograph. I just said, "Thank you for, you were somewhat of an influence." He was huge. He's still huge.
Yeah.
He's undeniable. He's undeniable.
He is.
He like is. It or not. Like my friends either like him, hate him, have all the different issues about him. But I go, I dig him. I dig him. I dig them all. They're all just artists on a journey.
I have to say exactly what you said. I'm glad that he didn't charge you for an autograph if you decide to get an autograph. But I have to say that
it was sweet.
Undeniably,
he could have.
He's a guy. He is still relevant today. He's still like his books, his remarks, and the books that he does. They sell out. So he's still relevant today. So I have to give him mad props.
He's one of the he's one of those guys.
Right.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say I was excited. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there. Somebody, John, I'm gonna butcher your name. John Chuck.
I'm horrible with that names.
I'm sorry if I mispronounced your name, John. Okay, this is where you post your art. Go to Facebook and type in the search engine for Facebook and go to Art Show. That is our sister page. Post your artwork there, and glad you let me know. So if anybody wants to draw along with us, just let me know in the comment field, and then post to the Art Show on Facebook, and I will pull up your artwork, and I'd be more than happy to share the artwork with Len, and he can give you an on-the-spot look over
critique
and that way you can check it out, or he can check it out. So again, go to the Art Show on Facebook and post your art there, and I'm going to go there right now and see if I can find if anybody drew along with us. Hold on one moment. And anybody that, if you're still drawing along, you need more time, just let me know that you're drawing along, and we'll show it later on. So that's another option. So I'm with the Art Show. All right, we got an illustration from Mr. Brian Acosta, who drew last week with us. And let me pull that.
Mr. Acosta, hello.
Okay, so let me show this. And I love that our show attracts all types of artists, and
Got some
and it,
pros
and it
coming on.
yeah, and we got some people in the house here. So let me so first of all, John, post the artwork later on, but we're going to show Brian's right now. So let me put that into a format where I can share that. Hold on one second. And I'm going to share. All right, so here we go. All right, so here we go. I'm going to go full screen with this. So check this out. All right, so check this out. Brian, thank you so much for drawing. And it looks like he was.
See, I love that. I love it.
He was try. I think he was inspired by your artwork, because I think he's doing a similar demon.
Yeah, and
demon in the smoke.
He took it a different direction, and I love the simplicity of the line work, and I love the composition. I love the design. I see. To me, that's graffiti. It has that element of kinetic energy. Great job.
I agree 100%, Brian. Yeah, thank you for drawing along with us.
Good job, Brian.
All right, so again, John, if you want to post that, we'll look at that a little later on, but we're going to keep the show moving. So right before we do go to our next drawing, I'm going to show my piece real quick, because that way Len can give me the 3rd degree. Let me know what I need to do to improve, where I need to go to take my art to another level, so I can be just like him. Let me share the screen real quick.
Be like you.
Here we go.
Be like you.
All right, so yeah, this is like
I love it.
Thank you. This is something. Yeah. Go ahead.
See, you have great dynamism. See, you got the forearm. I love that forearm. The bowing of the staff. I love that. Good angle.
You can hear him cackling, right? Cackling in the background.
Yeah. A couple of what was the last season? I met Alan Oppenheimer, I think his name is, who did the voice of Skeletor. He was at a show at the con, and it was so cool to meet the guy, as he signed a couple of Skeletor pieces that I had for my own personal collection. And he's sweet man. And I was like, yes, it comes full circle.
That is great. So that's the thing about voice actors. I haven't really met any voice actors, but I've seen pictures, and it's always interesting to me because you're used to hearing their voice coupled with their comic or their animated counterpart. So it's always a trip for me to go, wow, that's what they look like, So did you get that kind of experience?
And he does the whole nice to meet you with the Skeletor voice, or he does something wacky, and you're like, this is trippy. It's so trippy. It's just never meet your heroes unless you want to.
Never hear your heroes, too, right?
Never hear your heroes.
That's funny.
But no, that's cool. It's just
let me. John was able to post his artwork, so let me share that real quick, and then we'll move to our next drawing challenge. So let me share the screen one more time. Here we go, and share this, and let's go full screen. So here you go, John. Excellent work here. Yeah, this is a classic look. I love it. And you got the staff in there too. I love what you did. Very cool stuff. John, thank you so much for sharing with us. It's just phenomenal. I like it when our audience can participate and also draw along with us. So thank you, John.
I'm like that at shows. When I get to go to shows, I love to meet the kids and people who are passionate about this. I want you to come and sit behind my table as I draw. I love it when kids show me their portfolios. Like, I'm one of those types of guys who want to inspire people to keep doing what they love.
Yes.
Keep drawing, guys. Keep drawing.
And I think that's brilliant, because now you can look back when you were just starting to draw. You can go back to 12-year-old Len and remembering what your experience was going to a con, and now you're on the other end of the table. You get to see other people's portfolios. You get to see those 10, 11, 12-year-olds. Yeah, they're going to be
Support.
the future lens in the in the
Well,
industry. So very, very cool.
support your artist. That's the key thing. You know.
All right, so I maximized your screen, so I want everybody to take one last look. I know that Len is going to probably refine. I mean, just in the
Finish.
time since I was going to say in the time that we actually showed it the first time, you've already added quite a few different elements to it, and it's looking. Oh, you're signing it, so it's official.
I'm signing it, but I'm not done.
Okay, no problem. All right, so I want everybody to know you got to see it happen here. You got to see that live inking process with the secret pens and the technical tools that Len uses to create masterpieces like this. I mean, look at this. So we're looking forward to, like, Len later on, if you want to, like, when you do the finishing touches on it, to share that with us. We'll be more than happy to share it on our Facebook page or our show page so people can see what the final product looked like. So phenomenal work. Yes, and post it on your Instagram as well. And we're going to actually, like, make sure that everybody knows how you can like and follow Len as well. So, all right, as much as I would like to see you keep on going with this, let's move to our next live drawing challenge. So let me minimize this real quick so I can see Len's face here. All right, so that was awesome seeing the magic happen here. Okay, so for our second live drawing, we are going to do a Marvel character instead of a toy character, and that Marvel character is Sabretooth. And he's the arch enemy nemesis of Wolverine. And he's been interpreted many different times in the animated series and the comic book. He's had so many different costumes. He's also been in the not the MCU, but the Fox universe of the X-Men. It'll be interesting to see
that other company.
Yeah, that other company. But I heard that the MCU has got the rights back to the mutants. So it'll be neat to see who they cast as Wolverine, who they cast as Sabretooth, because you can't have a Wolverine without having a Sabretooth. And Len is previewing, just like what he did with Skeletor. I'm going to solo you out here. I'm going to make your art screen. Here we go. We get to see a large preview of the underlying pencils that Len is going to ink for this particular live draw. So I'm going to go ahead and put 20 minutes on the clock right now. And we're going to get to see Len. Your screen is totally maximized right now. So go ahead. I'm going to start the clock, and I'll let you go ahead and start working your magic. And we're going to talk about Sabretooth and the X-Men and, I don't know, anything that's related to Sabretooth. So here we go. The clock is officially starting 20 minutes. All right. So let's kick it off with this particular Sabretooth piece. Was this a commission piece that you started, or did
not at all?
This is a pet project.
It's up for sale. It's up for sale. This was done just for you. This was done just for you.
All right, so we're gonna have.
I've always wanted to do a Sabretooth, and I just decided. I did a quick little rough sketch of him, and last night I just kind of did a fast pencil just so I could have something. And, I always wanted to give him a go. He seems like a fun, badass character that's up my alley. I've always enjoyed him as a character, the villain against Wolverine. So I decided to have him it's 11 by 17 piece. I went a little big. I didn't realize, maybe I should have went a little smaller, but time-wise, little Wolverine, like he just had a fight with Wolverine and he took his head, but Wolverine's kind of going to recover. So he has a little smirk with the cigar, and in the woods, it's going to snow. It's going to be like a snow, and he's like, oh crap. I forgot what's coming, Wolverine's coming back and he's going to be pissed.
I love this is the humor that I was talking about that you're putting in there, because I
tell a little story about it.
I didn't know that was Wolverine's head there in the bottom. I thought that was like I don't know. I got Deadpool vibes from that. But,
I just remembered the cartoon that they had. What was the cartoon where the Hulk went nuts and he started to get Wolverine, and that they had a cartoon recently, a couple of years back, and I just for something just popped in my head, and I was like, should I do Omega Red? That's another character I kind of enjoy. He's a kind of interesting badass, and it all comes from the last convention I was at, Phil Russer gifted me a Jim Lee artist edition book. Um,
Oh,
and
that's a great
and
book.
I'm
Yeah.
oh my god, I love those things. I love those artist edition books. So if
Mhm.
anybody here's out there and they have some, hey, they makes a great gift for a trade with art. I trade art for art or for
Uh-huh.
cool, you know, that type of stuff.
Uh-huh.
I live for that. I have like EC stuff. It's just Kelly Jones. I have a book, a Batman book, that type of stuff. I just love it when it comes out
Mm,
because you learn so much from those artist editions, just how they do it. Their little tricks here or there.
mhm. What I
And
love about
again,
that particular book was you get to see scans 1-to-1 ratio of like iconic covers that Jim Lee did, and complete with like tape and whiteout, things that you don't see. Obviously because it's the final finished art that gets published, and I just think that that's kind of a neat thing. It adds another level of just realism when you get to see I guess the blood, sweat, and tears that go into a comic book cover, and
yeah, yeah, they work it. Those things are definitely blood, sweat, and tears.
hey, but you get to see Len's blood, sweat, and tears here when he's inking Sabretooth live on Comics Cast right now. So it's the same thing. We get to see that same kind of passion that's being put into these projects. I mean, these art pieces. Um, Very
There's
neat.
a lot more work goes to it in the prep stages. Just kind of like getting the idea, getting the composition right, and
Mm-hmm.
then once you get that going, it's this is the fun part. This is the part where you're like, yes, I can't wait to do this part. This is where the final magic happens. The
uh,
magic.
well, for me,
So
it's like that's where to me the stress and anxiety starts building. It's like, man, I would really like to ink this, but I suck at inking, so maybe I won't.
you, you,
so,
just, you
so,
know what? Just keep practicing. That's it's
yeah.
it's all just practice.
Mhm.
You could do it.
Did,
Your art
did you have
is
a
up there.
Did you have a phobia about inking at any time, or did
I
you just like have you
I
always been
I
like
go through that.
I just okay?
Yeah,
So that makes me
definitely.
feel better that you felt that way before, but you definitely don't have that now. Everything just falls into place. This is the fun part, like you
It's
said, right?
but this takes practice. Like you get rusty. You have to
Hmm.
keep practicing, and sometimes like things just happen where you're like, I can't pick up a pencil or I can't ink for crap. It's just nothing's working out. This drawing is fighting me. You know,
Uh-huh.
Sometimes they don't fight you. I look at these drawings as they're alive. You have to tell a story. So here's a story. I'm trying the story of me inking it, how I came up with this position, pose. It's all these to help the piece along.
I never thought
So
of it that way. It's like you made just a really brilliant comment about how do you bring it alive, like how do you continue telling the story, and it's telling the story through you told the story through the rough pencils, and now it's like completing the story by doing the inks. I actually never thought of it that way. That's a pretty neat way of looking at things.
because right, you're the artist, you're creating something from nothing, and the concept is you got to entertain yourself. You do enough of these, you do them a lot. Like, I've never drawn. I might have drawn him, like sketched him a couple of times, but I don't know
Uh-huh.
how he, besides just looking at an image of somebody else's drawing interpretation of him. One of the key things that I try to focus on is what's Len's version of Sabretooth going to look like. I'm not
Hmm.
interested in what somebody else's version of this, because if I do that, I might as well stop, because there's so many fantastic artists out there that do it, you know, amazing. Like their Sabretooth would be, incredible. I'm like fighting upstream, against, another artist that I admire. Even
Uh-huh.
someone like you, who's an awesome artist.
Whatever.
If you did a Sabretooth and I saw him and I was like, I'm floored by this piece, that might discourage me from attempting and go, I just saw somebody do it better, you know. So it's a constant kind of upstream battle,
Uh-huh.
but again, I'm always looking for my own interpretation of the character within guidelines. So like next time I draw him, maybe I'll make his head a little different, the mask different. I'm trying to, or the outfit a little, stretch the exaggerations. you know I'm always looking to do something different with the character, just because I want to put my stamp on it.
I
And that's
I
something that
love
I think
I
is
I
really important
I
to focus
I love that philosophy. I love what you just said in terms of like, um, even if you've seen like versions that you love, you're not going to be totally wrapped up in like trying to make it look like, even though you love the art style, you're not going to try and like copy it or try and on it, because that's already been done, and you
on.
have your
Yeah.
own look. I like how you said, I'm just going to do the Len version. I'm going to appreciate what I saw, but I'm just gonna continue to do it the way that I would kind of do it. I think that's great.
and
That's
and sometimes people might say, well, that's not always a good idea because you're doing a house style or something like that. I go, yeah, but you know how back in the day when comics were a little more risque, they would take risks. They would get
uh-huh,
people to do their style, like a Sam Keith. Sam Keith, who does the Max.
uh-huh.
There's nothing like that. It wasn't anything like that. That's why he
That,
became popular. There's
yes.
nothing like there's
I,
you when you do a McFarlane and you do the big Spider-Man eyes, he just made it
uh-huh,
his own. And I don't
uh-huh,
see, there's artists that do that. Of course, there's always going to be amazing artists that have their own unique stamp, and those are the artists I gravitate towards. Um,
uh-huh.
those are the things that you should be consciously looking at and trying not to copy. And eventually what happens is you develop your own language, you develop your own methods and techniques. is and that's where the training, the hours in comes in. And that's my spiel, that's my philosophy. I always
I
tell
think
young artists, I always tell
uh-huh,
the young artists that I bump into, I go, just do your own thing. Don't copy. Don't be the next, whoever is the fad. You know,
hmm,
if you're gonna draw anime, do it something that they're not expecting. You know,
hmm.
the big eyes, big, Pokemon. If you're hired to do Mickey Mouse, you got to draw Mickey Mouse the way they want you to. That's also something that you got to be conscious of.
Yeah.
So you got to kind of play a sort of a balancing act with these things. And there's leeway, and then there's time to kind of do what the boss says. That's something
Hmm.
you have to be conscious of. And the boss changes from project to project. Sometimes somebody would say, this is not the way I like it. This doesn't work for me, this Sabretooth. Okay, that's fine. You're not buying it. It's okay. Yeah, another
I
guy will
agree.
buy it.
Yeah, I
you
like
know
like I
Screw
think
you,
you had
man.
it. You had a great point. Because I think I was talking about Sam Keith art. Um, it's like
It's not for
you
everyone.
you mentioned, yeah, it's not for everybody, but you, like, to me, I told you I respect it. And
Yeah,
actually I
there you
appreciate
go.
it. I respect it, and I appreciate the what goes into it. And I think everybody, art speaks to everybody differently. And
Right.
I have this. I like what you said, is like, you Sam. No one's ever gonna talk to Sam Keith and say, you ripped off Jim Lee. It's like, no, it's Sam Keith artwork is immediately identifiable, and it's something that he's come up with his own style. No one's he came up with a look, and that's his bread and butter. Love it or hate it, that's him. What I can recognize it and appreciate it at an instant. And that's what I also see with your artwork. You look at it, and
Thank,
it speaks to me differently. And there's just so much to it.
thank you. That's the real goal, is that I want it to be memorable. I want you to say, "Hey, that's a Len piece." I know. That reminds me of another artist. He's kind of maybe riffing on that artist's style. Oh, he's basically copying that guy's style. Well, that's okay. That's all right. Depending on what it's for. You don't want to. The best way to practice is copy your heroes. That's
Mm-hmm.
important too. Take art and copy it. You like an artist, try to be like him. But don't be him. You know, you're not trying to be. I don't want to be a artist that I'm. You know, I don't want to be like them. I want to do stuff my own way. You know, so
Hmm.
and the only way you get there is by just doing it. You know, you just got to do it. Just do it. Just do it, and
Yeah, I
eventually
think
you come up with a language
yeah,
that's
there was
unique to you.
a quote that I think my partner Joe Tolliver always says, and I think he heard it from Jim Lee, and I'm gonna butcher the quote, but the gist of it, it was basically like if you spend your entire career or time learning by just copying, let's say Jim Lee, and
You'll never.
as good as you'll get, you will never you'll just always be a second rate version of your idol, right?
Right.
You'll never get to be number one at being just Len, right? You'll never be number one
Right.
at just being a Jero, or a John, or a Brian Acosta, or a Saeed. You basically got there comes a point where you learn from the masters, and from there you start developing your own style and realize what your strengths are, and go from there.
That's right. I mean,
Mm.
I agree 100%. You know, and I always say I'm still learning. I mean, I get tips and pointers all the time. Scott Hanna, who's inker on the Spider-Man books right
Uh-huh.
now, I saw him at a convention recently, and he gave me some great tips. You know, it's just stuff like that. You know, you cherish it. You go, oh, do this, do that for the show. Oh, you know, I like your fine art paintings. Oh, do bigger pieces, do inking. You know, do ink lines like this. You know, here's a
Mhm.
shortcut. Here's a to do that effect. You know, that's what you need to listen to. That's what you need to pay attention
Uh,
to. You know, stuff like that.
sage
Your
advice here from
be
Len. I
accept
love it.
criticism. Accept
Yeah.
criticism.
Okay. Hey.
You have to have thick skin.
Yeah. Let's talk
That's
about
what's
that.
art.
You want to
Thick
share
skins.
any pearls of wisdom of like you've gone to
Never
cons?
be
Have,
never be
have you gotten?
afraid to show your work
Uh-huh.
and get it ripped apart. You know,
Okay.
because everybody, take the criticism. You know, learn how to accept criticism. Not everybody's gonna like your art. Not everybody's gonna
Hmm.
agree. You know, somebody, why are you making this? Why aren't you drawing that? You know, oh, I hate monsters. Oh, your stuff is scary. Oh, this, that, or oh, your line
Yeah.
work sucks. Oh, you don't have this. You don't have that. You know, a lot of people want to tear you down because it makes you feel good. But
Uh-huh.
at the end of the day, you just got to be happy with yourself, and you'll develop. You'll know when it's like. For a long time, I wasn't, confident of drawing, say, girls or inking a certain way or, going for it, like something like this, just going for it,
Mhm.
um, in a fast manner. Uh, and then one day you're like, you know what am I scared of? What am I worried about? Somebody's not going to like it. Somebody's going to say, oh, you're not a pro. You're not good enough, or you're fighting against yourself as an artist already. Don't worry about what
Mhm.
other people think, kind of thing. Because at the end of the day, somebody like, you pick an artist that your style is like, what the hell am I looking at? And all of a sudden they become popular and you're like, "Ah, I don't get it, but it's not up to you, you know, it's up to
Right.
whoever's
Right.
buying it or whoever, you know,
Mhm.
like you like it. And somebody say, oh, I don't like him. He's jacking this guy, that guy,
Mhm.
who knows, who's
So
right, who's wrong.
have you ever been on the receiving side of that, where somebody is ripping your style? Have you seen anybody
No,
like
well,
copy
no,
copy Len?
I'm not that well as well known as I'd like to be. In art, I'm not that well known. That's why I'm here for the show. Go to my Instagram. You know what I mean. Follow me on Face. That type of thing. Promote. But
Yes.
again, it's as you get more established or better known, then
Mhm.
we'll talk. It's inevitable if you become popular for whatever reason that it's your turn up at the ball,
at the top.
it's your turn to be the star. It's your turn to be the star. It's just how you handle yourself. If somebody likes you and copies you, that's flattery. To me, that's flattery.
Right,
The
right.
difference is if they take your jobs away from you, that's something else.
Right.
But that's only when that happen. That's a different type of game.
Different story altogether.
Yeah, it's like if you're going for the same job and they literally take your
Take
style
your
and
work.
yeah, well, then we got words in the parking lot. Otherwise,
let me show you how we'll show you how we do it in Jersey, right?
Let me show you how I do it. Oh, my wife would be like, "What? You had a chance to listen to her when we were setting up and testing this podcast."
She will be your defender.
Oh,
she will make sure that no one will take advantage of Len. So.
First, she'll beat me up, and then she'll beat me up for being wrong, and then she'll take care of anybody else. Don't mess with that lady. So, yeah. What other sage advice could I give you guys?
Yeah, like talk. Do you have any fun like convention stories that you want to share? Like
every convention I do, it's like I love doing them, although it's a lot of work, and I don't do as many as it's traveling. I have kids, I have a wife, I got this, that going on. It's hard to do a lot of shows because I tend to pack. I bring the kitchen sink, like I like my art supplies. I like to bring a lot of stuff.
Your monster pens. You want to bring all your monster pens, right?
all that is not the big deal. The big deal is you never know at conventions what people want. And
exactly.
That's kind of the dilemma. What is popular today is today's Thor. Tomorrow is the guy who's at the convention. It's like, what are people buying? What are they? Because you got to remember that these conventions, these artists, we're there to make money. We're there to make a living, selling our art, meeting people, trying to get fans. As much as we love to draw, it's a business. So, support them. When you guys go out to cons, don't just, it's great that guys dress up, cosplayers and all that, contests and all these vendors, of course, but, support your artists, support the local guys. It's important, to keep this creative endeavor that we all love alive. I'm really big at that. I like to see when people come up. I like to, if they don't understand it, educate them. Like if they don't get it, tell them about it. Bring as an artist, you should bring people into it. That's key. And you make friends. Help your friends. Artists. So I'm big on that type of stuff. And anybody who knows me.
Mm-hmm. I'm getting to know you in that respect, and I think that's the thing about the indie comic community too, is that it's not
the best.
I think you'll never see that kind of. There's always going to be like some bad apples, but overall that I've seen, like you see a lot of camaraderie. You see a lot of people join together.
It's a family.
It's a promote. Yeah.
It's a family, and I like that element. Any kind of endeavor, creative endeavor, or sports, any kind of convention circuit, those types. It could be sports, it could be sneakers, it could be, these people are, it's a family. They travel. They're rolling gypsies. That's what I call. It's like the gypsy lifestyle. It's not for everyone, but I wish I could do more shows. And since I'm a local guy in New York, it's hard. One day shows are hard because you're schlepping, you're paying for hotels, you're doing all these things. It's hard to do these things, and then you hope that the venue provides good advertising for you, gets people in there, so sometimes, a couple of duds and you're not doing them for a while. So that's my convention spiel.
You got to wait.
But I love it. I love it.
The risks. Yeah. The risks versus the rewards,
I love it though.
All right, we got one more minute.
Cool,
just to give you a heads up. Is that okay, or do you want to add a little bit more
time?
Yeah,
we're good. I mean, it's as much as I can do. It's what I can do, right? But I'll get
well, that's what I want people to know that that even though we finish where we're at on the show, Len is gonna, always he's gonna go back and polish it up, or if he wants to take it to that next level.
Yeah, yeah.
And
I will
we'll
definitely finish
more than
this up.
happy. Yeah, we will more than be happy to share that. When it comes down to it, I'm just enjoying the conversation. I'm enjoying listening to your stories, your nuggets of wisdom. I'm loving that too.
I'm a nugget. I'm definitely a nugget.
But yeah,
I'm a character. What's that's the thing about me. I'm a character. Once you get to know me, I'm a I'm a wild man. I enjoy. I like having fun with these. At the shows, I'm a wild man.
Well, hopefully I'll get to see you at a con myself, and it's always nice to meet. I'm going to say that I'm going to buck the trend and say I'm going to meet my heroes. I want to meet you. I want to meet all of our guests that I've had on the show. But to me, it'd be a treat just to actually see. I'm going to have like with everybody that's on the show. I have to watch the show after the show because I'm drawing along with you, so I don't get to see you draw like live, and so I have to go back and watch it later on. But it's nice. It's
hard
that process.
Yeah, it's hard to do these types of things, and because your brain, the way your brain works, you're drawing, you're thinking about the art, and then you're talking, and then you're time managing, and it's a lot, especially at shows when people walk up to you, you're like, I'm drawing a commission piece, and I'm talking, and I'm trying to sell, I'm trying to upsell, I'm trying to converse, I'm trying to say hi to my friends, it's like a million things going on, and you're like, the show is done. You're like, what the hell just happened? Where did the time go? Where the hell did the time go? Like, oh, it's 4 hours. What? Didn't I just get here? Didn't I just sweat and set up, and now I got to break it all down?
Well, hopefully for you, it also means that, hey, where all this money come from commissions and stuff? I didn't even.
That's what my wife goes. Where are your millions? He goes, did we make our millions today? I'm like, oh,
Well, that's what they call it's a labor of love, right? You love comics, you love doing the artwork, and you gotta love it in order to do what you do, right? So
you do gotta love it, and things will come.
Right.
That type of stuff comes. It's luck, and it'll come when it's ready to come for you. You can't will it into existence. You could try. Right, you could try.
Our time, unfortunately, has expired. And now I'm gonna look and see what you've done. Oh gosh, this is so. I saw the pencil sketch, and now I see the inks, and this is.
So this will be trees, and it'll be snow. I'll have some snow, and it'll be kind of like. The head. We're gonna.
I see the magic of that big black marker that you use. I see how it allows you to get those wide strokes and cover area, and then this
wide strokes for good folks.
Yeah, I saw that.
And I would suggest acrylic based paint markers are the best. Sharpie is not so archival. But this is a fast drawing, so that's what
I love it. Because I saw the pencil sketch, and I thought the pencil sketch was impressive. And we talked about how your philosophy is that when you add the inks, you're furthering that story, and it's brought that sketch to like just another level. I don't even know what that Wolverine head is going to look like when you get to it, but
it's going to be gruesome.
It's going to be gruesome. But there's so much energy you've captured in there. I think it's all that negative space that you're creating with that black marker. It adds motion, and you said it's going to be trees, but it adds a sense of movement to a static.
Right,
image.
The kinetic. Yeah. That's the goal. That's what we're going for. The kinetic.
All right,
movement.
so it looks great. I'm gonna actually check our keep on drawing, or keep on inking. I'm gonna go to our art show page and see if anybody drew. And so just again, to give our audience a heads up, if you want to draw along, let me know in the comments field and post it to our sister page, The Art Show, and I'll be more than happy to share that with Len. So hold on one second. I'm refreshing the page. Oh, great. We got another from Mr. Acosta. He did another Sabretooth drawing, so I'm going to put that,
Nice.
drag that to my desktop to share. And it looks like he was the only one. So let me add that to this, to a visual drawing app, and I'm going to show that real quick. Hold on one second. And I have to say that probably by the time I do all this, Len is probably going to add like another level of awesomeness to his Sabretooth because he's that good. He's just gonna keep on adding layer upon layer, and it's just gonna look better and better in the time between showing.
That's right.
Yeah, here we go. All right, so let me share this next piece from Mr. Acosta. So hold on one second. Share screen. All right. Okay, so if you want to take a little bit of a break, let me show this to you, Len, and you can give me your feedback. So check this out.
I love it.
I think.
Good job.
I think.
I like the head. I like the head at the bottom.
I think he's totally taking inspiration from your art pieces, but he's doing it his own way, just like we talked about before.
I like it.
Just yeah, it almost looks like he has slash marks, like Wolverine slashed him a little bit there in his torso, but he's still coming to, and he has a smile on his face, like he's going to take out Wolverine, even though he's a dismembered head there on the bottom. But very, very cool.
So dystopian.
Very, very cool. Thank you for drawing along with us. You minimize this and take that off there. All right. Okay, so looks like
this is.
Oh, you
my
have
little
your,
one decided
you have your
to
daughter. Say hello to everybody.
She drew this T-shirt.
Okay, let me solo you out. Let me make. All right.
So
All right. You want to say hello to everybody? Oh, okay. She left off screen.
Oh, she left. She's done with me.
Okay, that shirt looks sweet though. So art.
Thank you.
Art. The art force is strong in your family. So, very, very cool. All right, so let me show my artwork, and then we're going to keep the show rolling along. So just want to give everybody a heads up. If you still need more time and you're drawing along, let me know in the comments field, and we will show your art toward the end of the show. So let's add one more thing to the screen, and I will show my quick and dirty sketch of Sabretooth. And let's do this. All right. So I totally
like the energy. I like the energy. I love it.
Totally didn't get to do anything on the lower third, but it was
leave it white. Leave it white.
I'm gonna go to the art store. I'm gonna hit you up for the links for all those inking things, so I can pretend that I will eventually ink if I have all those inking tools in front of me, and I will just look at it and look at it and look at it, and maybe eventually use it. But it was fun to do it. So that was really neat. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it.
Do me a favor and send me this piece. Scan it and send it to me before you ink it.
Okay, I'll do that. Even though the lines are pretty wonky, I don't know if you can figure out which line.
Don't matter. Doesn't matter.
It's no problem. I will do that. I will definitely do that. All right. Okay, and before we go to the next part of the show, I'm going to solo out your art screen one more time. And if you could just sort of show that to everybody, and I can see where this is going, and yeah, I really think this is going to get better and better as Len adds more touch. When he adds more finishing touches to it. I'm just particularly curious how you're going to handle that Wolverine head at the bottom left, but what you're doing right now, it looks really good, and I'm going to have to give you really good. I'm going to give you major props here because I think some of the problems that I have also are drawing hands, and with Sabretooth being who he is, hands are very important. And so your hand anatomy is incredible. I mean, it's very difficult to pull off, and I can already see that you've gotten that perspective and the lethality of his claws like down. I mean, that's on point. Looks really great.
Thank you.
All right, so Len, I'm gonna unfortunately have to tell you to put down the pen, unless you can keep on doing it. Actually,
No.
I'll let you keep on going. We're just gonna if you feel comfortable with multitasking, I just want to move to the next part of the show, which will allow you to, like, share some visual. I heard you have some visual aids that you'd like to share with us as we move to the next phase of the show. And this phase of the show is basically talking about where my guest is. This is where Len is currently in his artistic journey. And when we did the pre-show, we did a pre-show this morning, actually. You showed me some of the hot off the presses stuff that you've gotten produced. And I think this would be a great opportunity to talk about the stuff that you have currently on available as maybe prints or people can kind of look into, as well as moving about, not only talking about where you are now, but where you're going in the future, like con appearances, where you see yourself in the next 10 years. So the mic is in your hands. You're at full screen right now. So please tell us about that.
Just got some Stranger Things Donald Duck version of Vecna. Just some
brilliant
9x10 prints if you're interested. Vampire Bat concept drawings here. Let me get the glare. The next con I think I'll be doing is our local New Jersey con. It's called Zap Con. It's Zap Comics. It's a store. They have one in Manalapan, New Jersey, and Wayne, New Jersey. Great comics. I love their first ever did. I love these guys. So con and check that out. ZapCon. New York Comic Con, I'll probably just be walking around, and I'm not sure where I'll be next. It's one of those things as it goes. In terms of what else? I have a out. Sorry for the nudity. Let's cover that up. Virginia Creeper, done by my friend. This is my friend's book called Virginia Creeper, done by Nick Justice. Nick Justice. And I did the embellishing and ink. He did the pencils and covers. But it's a girl. Something happens to the girl. What? Fun stuff, a little risque. Let's not get crazy, but things happen.
Gotcha.
PG-13, and I'm also, if you're curious to see some of my work, I have a couple of little pinups in this really awesome book by Ed Piskor. You guys follow him on Cartoonist Cafe, but the Red Room had some pinup artists. Here's a piece that I have in the book. It's kind of fun. It's kind of fun to be in really cool horror books. This is one of I haven't seen here, just so guys who are fans of this type of stuff. There's a of his. Sorry, can't see it. A little glare.
Yeah, I can see it.
But check them out. Amazing stuff. Their podcast is phenomenal. Big fan. And I did some issues for Zapp's Comics, just if you want to advertise some characters for White Widow. So I do these types of pinups. Other than that, it's just I'm just doing stuff here or there. You could hit me up. I take a lot of commissions. Let's see. Do covers, if anybody's interested in having work done, all sorts. I do sketch covers, and I just have a lot of stuff to go through. It's just a matter of project by project. So right now I'm just finishing up missions and some pinups, the light of day print. Here's one of our friends that we did, Phil Russler's comic book called Tragedy. He has a Kickstarter for book 3, and he's going to go on book 4. I'll have a cover on book 4. one of his tiers. So he did a foil cover. Sorry if I can't see it.
That looks
This
brilliant.
came out. He gave it to me this past weekend. He handed this to me. This looks pretty cool.
Yeah.
But you know, so you know, I also do I do pretty art too. You know, so outside of monsters, that type of thing. Portraitures and you know. So it runs the gamut. What else? What else can we show you? I can see some pieces, fast commission pieces. The Juggernaut. I have a ton of art. I have a ton of art sitting around. You know, it's hard for me. Like the covers, a lot of sketch covers I have that are sitting around collecting dust that I'm going to start trying to offer. I'm going to start doing live drawings on Facebook or probably more Instagram. Try.
You know what you should do?
To do auction. Here's another one that's coming up.
These are so good.
Work on. So I can't see it. It's a little blurry. A death dealer.
Oh, that looks.
So this one will be for sale. It's done for this. For me, kind of. What else could I entertain you with?
You really should put together an art book, Len, of all of your commission pieces. You should take pictures of them and put them into an art book. I think that would sell.
That's some horror, some nice horror.
Oh yeah, that looks good.
Some Bernie Wrights inking over some Bernie Wrights, and so I also inks a few other artists who are interested in getting ink work done. Sorry, apologies. Some monsters.
Oh, that looks
the old some fun stuff. I love Kirby.
Those are so. This is like another side of Len I've never seen. Look at this art, just incredible stuff.
Some fun, fast drawings for, and all of these are for sale. You know, at shows that I do. Let's see some other stuff. Swarm. If you guys ever grew up in the 80s and you watched Spider-Man and Friends, they had a villain called Swarm made out of bugs.
Yes!
They have him on.
I do remember that. Evil Ernie. Swamp Thing.
Some
goblin.
A little Joker. Some Godzilla.
Oh, I like that typography on that too.
Yeah. A little homage to Frank Miller. Kind of a fast. So hit me up.
Yeah. I just want everybody to know I put Len your Instagram and your Facebook link is there at the bottom. So I want everybody to go like, subscribe, follow, make sure that they hit Len up if you need some of this. If you got a preview of his art style, it's diverse, but it's all Len. And whether it's horror art or comic art or even fine art, you even got to see some of his graphic design and his typography, logo skills. So definitely hit up Len for some of this artwork. So Len, let's talk about the future. Where do you see yourself in the next 10 years?
Oh, geez. I'm hopefully still doing this and doing it on a bigger level and publishing my own projects, doing more shows, getting more commissions, that type of just becoming an auteur entrepreneur of this craft, sell it, making some money at it, of course. Just, continuing the journey and see where it takes you.
That's awesome.
Getting better at art, meeting new friends, making new friends in the business. It runs the gamut, guys.
Yeah, I have to say that
meeting people like you, having fun conversations.
Well, I have to say
and
that
inspiring young people.
Yeah, I think talking to you have been a wealth of just really good advice. But what I really and you know, aside from your technical skills, which are just so awesome, you've also been I have to say, a bundle of positivity. I just hearing your insight on art, your own creative journey, your experiences at cons. I have to say that I really, really enjoy how your art look, because I mean, your outlook on the whole trade, the whole industry. I think that it's very easy to get cynical, to get jaded, and to, especially if you run into some bad apples or some bad experiences. And I think
it's
you've done a
definitely,
really good
there's
job.
plenty of bad experience. There's plenty of bad experiences to be had, but you know, overall, you gotta be positive. You gotta look for the positive.
That's sage advice. You got to hear that there, hear from the horse's mouth. We get it. We get to get the final nugget of knowledge there. But this is the part where I get a little sad, because we're going to be starting to wrap up the show. And this is where I give the mic back to Len. And Len, I would like to hear we call it, this part of the show, the Oscar speech. This is where you get to basically give your final thoughts. If you want to say thank you to anybody, or if you want to plug anything else, because I know that aside from your art, the art force being strong in your family, I heard that your wife is also a internet entrepreneur as well. So I'd let if you want to like plug what she's doing as well.
I'll plug her.
Okay.
Our company, we have a boutique. She's the boss. I'm just the Johnny to her. I'm the Ed McMahon to her Donnie. Let's put it that way. It's Tori Reese. Oh, we get a Tori Reese. Yeah, so it's a boutiques and clothing, women's clothing, and all kinds of fun goodies. And the app you can download on iTunes, and you know it's a great. She does a live stream every day, and the app constantly has new stuff. So that's something that we do. Check it out if you're into that. It would make her happy. It would make me happy. Sign up. Follow me on Instagram at Len Danovich. Also Facebook, but mostly Instagram. I post, do streams, and then I forward it to DM me if you ever want any kind of commission pieces. The price points. I work with people. That's kind of very important. Everybody always asks, what do you charge? What do you charge at shows? What do you charge? It really depends on what you're asking for and what your budget is. I know what I want. I know what my time is worth. I usually start at small pieces at $50, but it runs the gamut. I do trading cards. I draw little cards for people. I do all sorts of things, all sorts of commissions, but I'm reasonable and really approachable for that. So hit me up. I do a lot of sketch covers. I have tons of stuff posted, and I'm going to be posting stuff more and more. So that's pretty much it. And if you're a creator or a creative that's looking to do some, project, hit me up, DM me. It's pretty easy to get a hold of me. That's pretty much my spiel. That's my closing art. And hopefully, we promote it. And I love being other artists, creative friends, such as yourself. It's, positivity, man. We're all in it together.
That is awesome. I awesome Oscar speech. And we're gonna end it on a positive
and
note.
Hopefully I win an award.
I can see you doing artwork and winning Eisner Awards or whatever the highest accolades for our industry. I think that's something that you just need to get. I think it's just a matter of getting everything out there so that Len will become a household name. So he'll be a Bernie Wrightston in my book. So very, very cool. Excellent Oscar speech. And again, if you look at the bottom, you can follow Len on Instagram at Len Danovich, on Facebook as well as Instagram. This is how I wrap up all of our shows. We like to do a little bit of a plug for a charity group that we partner with, but we're not financially tied to. And let me share my screen one more time. So hold on one second while I manage this. And here we go.
And something else,
Right.
if somebody's interested in any books or anything like that, just contact me and I'll get them out to you.
Definitely do that. All right, so this is where we get to talk a little bit about that charity group I mentioned, and that group is called Golden Fight. And like I said, we are not financially tied to them in any shape, way, or form. We are just the leadership here at Comics Cast is leadership at Golden Fight. And what is Golden Fight? Golden Fight is a charity that I like to say is big enough and small enough at the same time. Small enough in the sense that they are not like international, national for that matter. They're actually a very focused charity in my neck of the woods, which is the Mid-Atlantic region of the United States. And what makes them so big? What makes them so huge? They are a charity that helps families that are dealing or that have children that are dealing with very difficult illnesses like cancer. And so when parents of these children are focusing on the healing of their child, inevitably they will experience financial difficulties, and that's where Golden Fight comes in. This is where they come in huge. I used to think 1 or 2% of the money that they would raise would maybe help take care of some of the operational or administrative things that any charity is going to go through, but I was wrong. 100% of the money they raise goes to helping those children. So I encourage everybody to go to goldenfight.org, read up on it, and if you feel like you'd like to contribute to a worthy charity, this is one of them. I would like for you to check that out. So go to goldenfight.org, and it'd be really cool to help support them. So let me minimize this, and let's get to our screen here where we get to see Len and his artwork. Look at that. He is still busy at making sure that Sabretooth is taken to that next level of awesomeness that I was talking about. I'm going to pop up your social media handles one last time. Let me see if I can find it here. Again, that's follow Len Danovich on Instagram and Facebook, Danovich. So
and WhatsApp. I forgot to add the WhatsApp. I'm going to try to do a drawing session where I'll auction off pieces in the future. I'm setting that up right now.
Awesome.
Artist Len Danovich WhatsApp. What's not?
Okay.
What's not?
Yeah, definitely check that out. Look forward to that. But he's going to get that up and running, but you can definitely find him on Instagram and Facebook already. And when he's ready to go live with that, you can check that out. And that'll be yet another way to support a phenomenal artist. So this is where I have to shed a tear because we have to say goodbye. We're getting some consistency back here. Had a little bit of a rough spot where we had holidays and anniversaries and illnesses that kind of like prevented a consistent run of shows, but we're back on track and back on track with Len here. So I really, it was an honor to promote you. And I think that he's just going to be yet another one of those fantastic artists that we are so thankful to have on this show. So look for us to come back at you throughout the rest of July and into August and the rest of the year, doing more feature shows just like on Comics Cast Let It Out. So that being said, we're signing off. And we hope to see you next week. So see you later. Bye-bye.